Ahoy, mateys, and welcome to another deep dive. Today we're hoisting the sails and charting a course for Monkey Island.
Shiver me timbers.
But don't worry, you won't need a parrot or a peg leg to enjoy this one. We're going to be exploring the secret of Monkey Island, a game that really shook things up in the adventure game world.
Yeah, it really did.
We've got a treasure trove of sources for this one.
Oh, yeah.
Old reviews, developer interviews, even a really fun U2 analysis video.
Oh, wow.
So get ready to find out why this game, after 30 years, is still making waves.
The Secret of Monkey Island. I mean, it's become a legend, really. And it kind of did that by, like, turning everything on its head.
Yeah.
Like, you start with the main guy, Guybrush Threepwood. I mean, even the name is like, okay, we're not dealing with your average pirate here.
Right. You wash up on Melee Island, and this wannabe pirate, his name is Guybrush, and you just know right away that things are going to be different.
Totally. And it's not just the name either. Instead of like, the grizzled pirates from the movies, you've got these quirky characters all caught up in these silly island politics.
So to become a pirate, Guybrush has to go through these 3 trials, right? Sword fighting, treasure hunting, stealing a valuable idol. Sounds pretty typical.
Yeah.
But this is where it gets interesting.
Okay.
Each of these trials is like a twist on what you would normally expect. Like sword fighting.
Yeah.
You'd think it'd be all about, like, swinging a sword around.
Right.
But in Monkey Island, it's all about how clever you are. You win by, like, outsmarting your opponent with insults, not brute force.
Yeah. Insult sword fighting. That's genius.
It's just brilliant. And it's more than just, funny dialogue. To come up with the best insult, you have to really learn about the game world, the characters,
Yeah.
their little quirks. It's like knowledge is power, but pirate style.
Exactly. It rewards you for exploring in a way most games didn't back then. And it's not just the sword fighting. It's the puzzles, too. They're designed to make you think like a pirate, but they're always fair. The solutions are hinted at throughout the game, so when you finally figure it out, you feel like you're a genius.
Oh, yeah. Like, remember when you have to break Otis out of jail?
Oh, yeah.
The thing you need to do at the garage, it's mentioned way earlier by the pirate leaders.
Right.
It's like the game is rewarding you for paying attention.
Yeah, and that attention to detail, it's in everything. Even the technical stuff, I mean, the graphics, for the especially with the limited colors they were working with, they're really expressive and full of character. Even now, those pixelated characters, they still have this charm to them.
And the music. Oh, man, the music. Michael Land's pirate reggae soundtrack.
Yeah.
It's just iconic.
It's so good.
It totally captures that blend of humor and adventure that Monkey Island has. You'll be humming these tunes for days after you finish playing.
Oh, absolutely. It's true. The music, the visuals, even just the way the game moves. It all comes together to create this immersive experience that makes you feel like you've actually stepped onto a pirate island.
It's amazing.
And of course, you can't forget about the humor.
Oh, the humor.
Yeah.
It's legendary. But what's really cool is how layered it is. It's not just slapstick or puns, although there's plenty of that.
Right.
The game is constantly making fun of pirate tropes and even like adventure game conventions.
Yeah.
It's like it's winking at the player saying, we know this is silly. Let's just have fun with it.
And it's so self-aware. You see that in moments like when Guybrush gets a tour of the island and then he complains to you, the player, about being ripped off.
It's great.
That breaking the fourth wall is what makes the humor so unique.
Yeah, and it's full of surprises, too. Like, remember when Guybrush is trying to recruit a pirate for his crew?
Oh, yeah.
And the pirate just responds with a completely random advertisement for another Lucasfilm game?
It's hilarious.
It's those unexpected moments that make Monkey Island so memorable.
Yeah. They're not just random gags, either. They're designed to make you think about what games are all about.
It's humor with a purpose.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got this amazing world, this layered humor, and then there's this thing that was revolutionary at the time. You can't die in Monkey Island.
Whoa.
It might seem like a small thing, but it completely changes how you play the game.
I bet.
Back then, adventure games were full of game over screens. You make one wrong move and you'd have to start all over again.
Oh, man.
Ron Gilbert, the guy who created the game, he wanted to get rid of that.
Good idea.
He wanted players to feel free to just explore, experiment, get lost in the world without being afraid of messing up.
That makes sense.
And it worked. Knowing you can't die makes you feel more relaxed, more willing to try things. You're not constantly worried about making the right choice.
Right.
It encourages you to just play and discover, and that was pretty groundbreaking back then.
It's a small change, but it really changes how you think about the game.
Yeah, you're not just following a set path. You're really interacting with the world on your own terms.
I like that.
And speaking of interacting with the world, let's talk about the characters you meet.
Yeah.
They're just as weird and funny as everything else in the game.
Oh, yeah. From the voodoo lady who's a little creepy but actually harmless, to Stan, the used boat salesman who just talks a mile a minute.
He's great.
Every character is just bursting with personality.
And the way you talk to them is super important for solving the puzzles and moving the story forward.
Totally.
You've got Carla the Swordmaster, who's not all that impressed with Guybrush.
Right.
And Meat Hook, whose name tells you pretty much all you need to know. And then there's Herman Toothrot the Castaway, who's been stuck on Monkey Island for who knows how long.
I love him.
Each one of them just adds another layer of depth and humor to this world.
And then, of course, there are the cannibals.
Oh, yeah, cannibals.
Now, you'd think they'd be the big bad guys, right?
Yeah.
But instead of being these scary man-eaters, they're more like bickering neighbors.
Yeah.
Their interactions with Guybrush are pure comedy gold.
Oh, absolutely. Remember the whole three-headed monkey thing?
Oh, classic.
That's pure Monkey Island right there. It's just one example of how the game plays with what you expect.
Yeah.
It subverts those tropes in the most hilarious way possible. You never know what's going to happen next, but you can bet it's going to be funny.
Exactly. And that's what makes Monkey Island so special.
Yeah.
It's this perfect mix of humor, cleverness, and heart. It makes you laugh, think, and feel all at the same time.
And that brings us to the game's legacy. I mean, Monkey Island didn't just entertain it showed the world what adventure games could be.
It really did.
It paved the way for a whole bunch of games that focused on story characters and giving players the freedom to make choices.
It proved that a game could be funny and smart at the same time.
Yeah, and that it could challenge you without punishing you for making mistakes.
And that's something worth celebrating.
Definitely. Before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, let's talk about a real-world example of Monkey Island's impact. The Grog XD incident.
Oh, yeah.
So there's this recipe for grog in the game, right? Well, back in 2009, an Argentine news channel actually reported on this recipe as if it were a real thing.
What?
They were warning teenagers about drinking Grog XD, claiming it had, like, kerosene, battery acid, all sorts of dangerous ingredients.
No.
Can you imagine? It just goes to show how this game released way back in 1990 can still make headlines in the 21st century.
That's hilarious. It really shows how Monkey Island's humor blurs the lines between what's real and what's not.
It really does.
Yeah.
But it also makes you think, if a fake drink recipe can have that kind of impact, imagine how the game's design ideas could influence the whole gaming industry.
It's true. And that's something we'll be exploring more in the next part of our deep dive. Get ready to go even deeper into the humor, the innovation, and the lasting legacy of The Secret of Monkey Island.
We'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors.
Welcome back to our Monkey Island deep dive. Before the break, we were talking about how the game made its way into the real world.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And I think that's a great way to jump into talking about the genius of its humor.
Yeah, you're right. It's not just about the jokes themselves.
Right.
It's about how that humor is woven into every part of the game, from the dialogue to the way it's designed.
It's what makes Monkey Island so unique.
It's what makes it so unforgettable.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's like the whole game is in on the joke.
Yeah.
You know? Like, even the way the puzzles are designed is hilarious.
Oh, yeah. For sure. Like, it's not just that the situations are funny.
Right.
But the logic behind the puzzles themselves is like, it subverts your expectations. Take the whole rubber chicken with a pulley in the middle thing.
Yeah.
It's such a ridiculous item.
Right.
But figuring out how to use it throughout the game, it never stops being funny.
And remember, you need to use grog to melt the metal bars in Otis's cell.
Oh, yeah.
And the ingredients for the grog, like kerosene and battery acid, they're just mentioned in random conversations earlier.
That's so good.
It's so clever and unexpected. You're laughing at how absurd it is, but at the same time, you're like, wow, they really thought this through.
Exactly. That's what makes the humor in Monkey Island work so well. The writers weren't just throwing in random jokes for no reason.
Right.
They were thinking about how to make the humor part of the game's mechanics, the puzzles, the characters.
It's like they knew exactly when to drop a joke to, like, break the tension.
Totally.
Or make a moment even better. It's like masterful comedic timing.
It really is, even without voice acting in the original.
And speaking of the characters, the way they talk to each other is just pure gold.
Oh, yeah.
The dialogue is so snappy, full of wit and sarcasm, and it's always delivered perfectly.
It really is.
And Guybrush's inner monologue.
Oh, yeah.
It's hilarious. He's always making these little comments about how crazy everything is. It's like you're sharing the joke with him.
Yeah, you feel like you're right there with it.
Exactly. He creates this like camaraderie between the player and the character.
And that's that fourth wall breaking again.
Mm-hmm.
It works so well because you feel like you're part of the story, not just watching it.
Yeah, and it's not just Guybrush.
Right.
Every character, from the voodoo lady to Stan, they all have these memorable lines and quirks
They do.
that make them feel like real people.
Yeah.
Even though they're totally over the top.
It's true.
Okay, so we know Monkey Island is funny.
Very funny.
Like, really funny.
Yeah.
But it also tells a really compelling story.
Yes.
It's not just a bunch of jokes strummed together.
Right.
There's a real heart to it.
Absolutely. You've got this classic love story between Guybrush and Elaine Marley,
Yeah.
the island's governor who's been kidnapped by the ghost pirate LeChuck.
Uh-huh.
It's good versus evil, but with that Monkey Island twist.
And along the way, you're exploring this crazy world, uncovering secrets, meeting these amazing characters.
It really is like stepping into an adventure novel.
But you're part of the action.
Exactly. And the game does such a good job of pulling you into that world.
Yeah.
From the detailed environments to the way the characters move, everything works together to create this space that feels real.
And then there's the music.
Oh, the music. Michael Land's soundtrack is just
Amazing.
amazing.
It's so perfect for each location and mood.
Yeah, like you've got the fun pirate tunes, the spooky ghost ship themes, and the romantic melodies when Guybrush and Elaine are together.
It's more than just background music. It's part of how the story is told.
Yeah, it sets the tone, makes the emotions stronger, adds another layer to the whole experience.
And you know what else adds a layer to the experience?
That's that.
The fact that you can't die.
Right, that one design choice, it changes everything about how the story is told.
It really does. It lets you relax and explore.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about messing up.
You're free to try things out.
Exactly. You can really immerse yourself in the world and the characters without that pressure.
And that freedom,
Yeah.
that lack of pressure, it makes the experience so much more engaging. It lets the story unfold naturally. The humor lands better. And those emotional moments, they really hit you harder.
So we've got this amazing blend of humor, storytelling, and innovative design.
It's a powerful combination.
But what about its impact on the rest of the gaming world? I mean, Monkey Island didn't just exist on its own. It changed how people thought about adventure games.
Oh, absolutely. The secret of Monkey Island. It showed that adventure games could be more than just pointing and clicking.
Yeah.
They could be funny, charming, smart,
Mm-hmm.
and really immersive.
It paved the way for so many other games that put story and characters first.
Yeah, like Day of the Tentacle, Full Throttle, Grim Fandango.
All those games took what Monkey Island started and ran with it.
They explored new ways to tell stories.
Yeah, and they pushed the boundaries of what adventure games could do.
And that influence, it goes beyond just adventure games.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, think about it. The focus on humor, giving players choices, not punishing them for making mistakes. You see that in games today, even in completely different genres.
It's a testament to how powerful Monkey Island's design philosophy was.
Yeah, they weren't afraid to break the rules, try new things. And most importantly, make sure the player was having fun.
And that's a lesson that game developers today could still learn from.
Definitely. But it's not just about the game itself.
Right.
The secret of Monkey Island. It created a whole community of fans.
Oh, yeah.
People who grew up with the game, people who still play it today, people who create fan art, write articles, even make mods for it.
There's a real sense of community around Monkey Island.
There is. And it's a sign of how much of an impact the game had.
These fans aren't just playing a game.
Right.
They're connecting with a part of their childhood, reliving memories, sharing their love for this world with others.
And that community, they kept the Monkey Island spirit alive.
Yeah, even when there were years between new games.
I get the conversations going.
The fan art coming.
And the love for those characters burning bright.
It's proof that a truly great game can connect with people on a deep level.
And create those memories that last a lifetime.
Speaking of lasting legacies, do you know that the secret of Monkey Island made it into the Smithsonian?
Wait, really? The Smithsonian Museum?
Yeah. Back in 2011, the original Monkey Island was chosen as one of 5 games to be featured in an exhibit called The Art of Video Games.
Wow.
At the Smithsonian American Art Museum.
That's huge.
It was a big moment for video games.
It really was.
It was a sign that they were finally being recognized as a real art form.
I mean, it's one thing to be a classic among gamers,
Right.
but to be in a museum alongside traditional art, that's a whole other level.
And it really says something about how good and how influential the secret of Monkey Island was.
Yeah, it showed the world that video games could be more than just entertainment. They could be works of art worthy of serious consideration.
It's amazing how far games have come since then.
I know, right? We've gone from those blocky graphics and MIDI soundtracks to these huge stories, photorealistic visuals, music that makes you feel things.
It's been an incredible journey.
It really has. And Monkey Island was a pioneer.
Yeah.
It pushed the boundaries of what games could be.
It showed that you could make a game that was funny and smart.
Challenging and engaging, but still easy for anyone to pick up and play.
And those ideas, they're still important today.
So we've talked about the humor, the story, the impact on the industry, even its place in a museum.
It's been quite a journey.
But the Monkey Island story doesn't end there.
Oh, what else?
There's a whole saga to explore. A bunch of sequels that built on what the original did while adding their own twists and turns.
So what are we waiting for? Let's dive into those sequels.
Aye, aye. First up, we have Monkey Island 2, LeChuck's Revenge, which came out just a year after the first game.
So soon.
Yeah, and like the name says, our favorite ghost pirate is back.
Oh, no.
And he wants revenge on Guybrush. He's not going to let anything stop him.
It's got everything we love about the original. The humor, the puzzles, those characters.
But it takes everything up a notch. The graphics are even better. The music by the amazing Michael Land, it's even more catchy.
And the story.
Oh, the story. Let's just say it takes Guybrush on a wild adventure through the Caribbean.
Sounds fun.
We get to see new islands, learn more about the history of Monkey Island.
Nice.
And meet some truly bizarre characters. I mean, at one point, Guybrush ends up in a spitting contest with another pirate.
Dear cutie.
It's classic Monkey Island craziness.
I love it.
And then there are the puzzles. They're even more complex and clever in this one.
Oh, wow.
They really push what adventure game puzzles can be.
So they're hard.
They're challenging, but they're always fair. And when you finally solve one, it's so satisfying.
Yeah, the ending.
The ending. I don't want to spoil anything. But let's just say it's one of the most talked about endings in video game history.
Seriously?
It's a cliffhanger that left fans wanting more. And it's been debated for years.
Wow.
People are still arguing about what it all meant.
That's incredible.
It's a sign of how powerful the storytelling is. Even decades later, that ending, it sticks with you. It's a big part of what makes LeChuck's Revenge so special.
So after LeChuck's Revenge, we had to wait a while for the next game.
A few years, yeah.
But then in 1997, The Curse of Monkey Island came out.
Yeah.
And it had a whole new look and feel.
It did. The Curse of Monkey Island, it was a big change for the series, visually.
In what way?
Well, it moved away from the pixel art of the first two games and went with a more cartoonish look with hand-drawn animation.
How does it look?
It's stunning. The colors are so vibrant.
Nice.
The characters are so expressive.
Wow.
And the animation is so smooth and detailed.
That sounds beautiful.
It really brings the world of Monkey Island to life in a whole new way.
And The Curse of Monkey Island. It was the first game in the series to have full voice acting.
Where it was.
Which really brings the characters to life.
It does. You finally get to hear Guybrush, Elaine LeChuck, all the characters voiced by talented actors.
It must add so much to the experience.
It does. It adds a whole new layer of depth and humor.
And the story.
Oh, it's another classic Monkey Island adventure.
What happened?
We see Guybrush facing new challenges, meeting old friends and enemies, and of course trying to break the curse that's been put on him.
I bet there's some tricky puzzles in there.
Of course. It wouldn't be Monkey Island without them.
The Curse of Monkey Island. It's often considered one of the best games in the series.
It is.
And it's easy to see why. It's a perfect mix of old and new.
Yeah, it takes the classic Monkey Island formula and adds this fresh art style, voice acting, and a story that's both funny and heartwarming.
So then in the year 2000, the Monkey Island series took a big leap into the world of 3D graphics.
It did, with Escape from Monkey Island.
That was a pretty big change for the series.
It was. Not everyone was happy about it.
Really? Why not?
Well, some people didn't like the switch to 3D.
I can see that.
Especially because it meant moving away from the classic point-and-click controls.
How are the controls different?
They were definitely different, but the heart of Monkey Island was still there.
Okay.
The humor, the characters, the clever puzzles, it all felt familiar, even in this new 3D world.
And what about the story?
The story was actually really interesting. It was about things that were relevant at the time.
Like what?
Corporate greed, the loss of tradition, the importance of being true to yourself.
Wow, that's deep.
It felt like a Monkey Island game made for a new generation.
So Escape from Monkey Island. It might have divided the fans a little.
It did.
But it was still ambitious and entertaining.
Oh, absolutely. It showed that Monkey Island could change and adapt, even as technology and gaming trends were changing around it.
And then, in 2009, the Monkey Island saga continued with Tales of Monkey Island.
Which was a return to episodic content spread out over 5 chapters.
That's an interesting approach.
It was. It let the developers tell a story that unfolded over time, with each episode building on the last one.
Like a TV show.
Exactly. It was like watching your favorite show.
With cliffhangers and twists that keep you hooked.
Exactly. And Tales of Monkey Island also went back to the classic point-and-click style.
Oh, cool.
Which made a lot of fans happy.
Yeah, I can see why.
But it also added some new things.
Like what?
Like a more action-packed combat system that combined sword fighting with magical powers.
That sounds fun.
It was. It felt fresh and new while still feeling like a true Monkey Island game.
And the story.
Oh, the story is wild.
What happens?
It's full of twists and turns, unexpected alliances, epic moments that'll stay with you.
Tales of Monkey Island really showed that even after all these years, this series could still surprise people.
It did. It was proof that the Monkey Island formula, the humor, the adventure, the clever story, it still worked for both old and new fans.
And finally, we come to the latest chapter in the Monkey Island saga, Return to Monkey Island, which came out in 2022.
It did. This game, it was a long time coming. Fans had been waiting for a true sequel to Monkey Island 2 for decades. And Return to Monkey Island, it gave them what they wanted.
How so?
It's a direct sequel to LeChuck's Revenge. It picks up right where that game left off.
After all these years.
It's a love letter to the classic games. Full of familiar faces, places, inside jokes.
I bet the fans loved them.
Oh, they did. But it's not just a nostalgia trip.
Oh.
Return to Monkey Island brings something new to the series.
How?
Well, Ron Gilbert, the original creator, came back to work on it.
That's great.
It feels both familiar and fresh at the same time.
The best of both worlds.
Exactly. And the art style.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It's this unique, hand-painted look that's both modern and nostalgic. It captures the spirit of the old games, but with a level of detail that's just amazing.
And the story.
The story is. Well, it's everything a Monkey Island fan could hope for.
Like what?
It's funny, it's heartwarming, it's full of surprises.
Nice.
And it finally answers some of those big questions that have been hanging over the series for years.
I bet the fans were happy about that.
Oh, yeah. Return to Monkey Island. It's a fitting end to the Monkey Island story.
It sounds like it.
It's a game made with love and respect for the originals.
Yeah.
And any fan of the series needs to play it.
So as we wrap up our Monkey Island deep dive, what have we learned?
Well, what makes this series so special?
Yeah. So enduring. So loved by so many people.
I think it's a few things. First, the humor. Monkey Island is one of the funniest game series ever. The writing is sharp. The characters are quirky. The situations are absurd. It's a game that doesn't take itself too seriously, and that's part of what makes it so great.
But it's not just about the jokes.
Right.
There's real heart in these games. The characters feel real. The stories are engaging. And there's a sense of warmth and humanity.
Even in the silliest moments.
Exactly. And then there's the gameplay.
Yeah.
Monkey Island was a pioneer when it came to puzzles, storytelling, giving players freedom. It changed what adventure games could be. And its influence is still felt today.
Monkey Island is a series that's full of surprises.
And moments you'll never forget.
It shows the power of creativity, humor, and a good story.
And most importantly, it reminds us that games can be more than just entertainment.
They can be art, they can be stories, and they can create memories that stay with us forever.
Well said. So there you have it, folks. That's our deep dive into the world of Monkey Island. We've explored its history, its humor, its impact on gaming, and its legacy.
It's a series that deserves its place among the greatest games ever made, and it's a story worth experiencing again and again.
And who knows, maybe someday we'll set sail from Monkey Island once more. Until then, fair winds and following seas. Ahoy there, fellow adventurers! We're back for the final chapter of our Monkey Island Odyssey. We've talked about the game's groundbreaking design, its lasting legacy, even its place in the Smithsonian. But there's still so much more to uncover.
That's right. The world of Monkey Island is vast and full of surprises. And like any good pirate tale, it's a story that's best told in chapters.
So let's set sail for the sequels. First up, we've got Monkey Island 2, LeChuck's Revenge, released just a year after The Secret.
And as the title suggests, our favorite ghost pirate is back with a vengeance. He's out to make Guybrush pay for his previous defeat, and he's not going to let anything stand in his way.
It's got all the elements we loved about the original. The humor, the puzzles, those unforgettable characters, but it takes everything to the next level.
The graphics are even more detailed and expressive. The music, composed once again by the brilliant Michael Land, is even more evocative and memorable. And the story, well, let's just say it takes Guybrush on a wild ride through the Caribbean, introducing even more outlandish characters and locations.
We get to explore new islands, delve deeper into the lore of Monkey Island, and encounter some truly bizarre situations. Like at one point, Guybrush ends up competing in a spitting contest with another pirate. It's classic Monkey Island craziness.
And then there are the puzzles. They're even more intricate and clever in this sequel, really pushing the boundaries of what adventure game puzzles could be. They're challenging, but never unfair. And when you finally crack that tough puzzle, the feeling of satisfaction is immense.
And then, of course, there's the ending. Without giving anything away, let's just say it's one of the most debated and discussed endings in video game history. It's a cliffhanger that left fans reeling, and it sparked years of speculation and debate about what it all meant.
It's a testament to the power of the game's storytelling. Even decades later, people are still arguing about the meaning and the implications of that ending. It's a moment that stuck with players long after the credits rolled, and it's a big part of what makes LeChuck's Revenge such a special game.
Now, after LeChuck's Revenge, there was a bit of a wait for the next installment.
Yeah.
But in 1997, The Curse of Monkey Island arrived, bringing with it a whole new look and feel for the series.
That's right. The Curse of Monkey Island marked a significant shift in terms of the game's art style. It moved away from the pixelated graphics of the first two games and embraced a more cartoonish aesthetic with hand-drawn animation.
And it's absolutely gorgeous. The colors are vibrant, the characters are full of expression, and the animation is incredibly fluid and detailed. It really brought the world of Monkey Island to life in a whole new way.
And for the first time in the series, The Curse of Monkey Island featured full voice acting,
which really brought the characters to life. You finally get to hear Guybrush, Elaine, LeChuck, and all those other memorable characters voiced by talented actors. It added a whole new layer of depth and humor to the experience.
And the story itself is another classic Monkey Island adventure. We see Guybrush facing new challenges, encountering old friends and foes, and of course trying to break the curse that's plaguing him. It's a game that's full of heart, humor, and those trademark Monkey Island puzzles that make you think outside the box.
The Curse of Monkey Island is often considered one of the best games in the series, and it's easy to see why. It's a perfect blend of the old and the new, combining the classic Monkey Island formula with a fresh art style, voice acting, and a story that's both hilarious and heartwarming.
Now, in the year 2000, the Monkey Island series took a bold leap into the world of 3D graphics with Escape from Monkey Island.
This was a pretty big departure for the series. Not everyone was on board with the switch to 3D, especially since it meant moving away from the traditional point-and-click interface.
The controls were definitely different, but the core Monkey Island spirit was still there. The humor, the characters, the clever puzzles, it all felt familiar, even in this new 3D environment.
And the story was surprisingly timely, exploring themes of corporate greed, the loss of tradition, and the importance of staying true to yourself. It felt like a Monkey Island game made for a new millennium.
Escape from Monkey Island might have divided the fan base a bit, but it was still an ambitious and entertaining entry in the series. It showed that Monkey Island could adapt and evolve, even as technology and gaming trends changed around it.
And then, in 2009, the Monkey Island saga continued with Tales of Monkey Island, a return to episodic content that unfolded over 5 chapters.
This was a really interesting approach, and it allowed the developers to tell a more serialized story, with each episode building on the previous one. It felt like watching a season of your favorite TV show with cliffhangers and plot twists that kept you coming back for more.
And Tales of Monkey Island marked a return to the more traditional point-and-click style, which pleased a lot of fans who weren't so keen on the 3D controls of Escape.
But it also introduced some new gameplay elements, like a more dynamic combat system that combines sword fighting with magical abilities. It felt fresh and exciting while still staying true to the spirit of the original games.
And the story. Well, let's just say it's a wild ride. It's full of twists and turns, unexpected alliances, and some truly epic moments that will stay with you long after you finish playing.
Tales of Monkey Island proved that even after all these years, the series could still surprise and delight players. It was a testament to the enduring power of the Monkey Island formula, a perfect blend of humor, adventure, and clever storytelling that resonated with both old and new fans alike.
And finally, we come to the latest chapter in the Monkey Island saga, Return to Monkey Island, released in 2022. This game was a long time coming. Fans have been clamoring for a true sequel to Monkey Island 2 for decades.
And Return to Monkey Island delivered on those expectations in a big way. It's a direct sequel to LeChuck's Revenge, picking up the story threads that were left dangling for over 30 years. It's a love letter to the classic games, full of familiar characters, locations, and inside jokes that will make longtime fans grin with delight.
But it's not just a nostalgia trip. Return to Monkey Island brings a fresh perspective to the series, thanks to Ron Gilbert's return to the helm. It feels both familiar and new at the same time, a perfect blend of the old and the new.
The art style is particularly striking. It's a unique, hand-painted aesthetic that feels both modern and nostalgic, capturing the spirit of the original games while adding a layer of depth and detail that's simply breathtaking.
And the story itself is, well, it's everything a Monkey Island fan could ask for. It's funny, it's heartwarming, it's full of surprises, and it finally provides some answers to those long-standing mysteries that have haunted the series for years.
Return to Monkey Island is a fitting conclusion to the Monkey Island saga. It's a game made with love and respect for the original games, and it's a must-play for any fan of the series.
So as we reach the end of our Monkey Island deep dive, what have we learned? What makes this series so special, so enduring, so beloved by generations of gamers?
I think it comes down to a few key things. First, there's the humor. Monkey Island is simply one of the funniest game series ever made. The writing is sharp, the characters are quirky, and the situations are absurd. It's a game that never takes itself too seriously, and that's a big part of its charm.
But it's not just about the laughs. There's also a real heart to these games. The characters are relatable, the stories are engaging, and there's a genuine sense of warmth and humanity that shines through even the most ridiculous moments.
And then there's the innovative gameplay. Monkey Island was a pioneer in terms of its puzzle design, its storytelling, and its approach to player freedom. It showed the world what adventure games could be, and its influence can still be felt today.
Monkey Island is a series that's full of surprises, delights, and unforgettable moments. It's a testament to the power of creativity, humor, and a good story well told.
And most importantly, it's a reminder that games can be more than just entertainment. They can be art, they can be stories, and they can create lasting memories that stay with us long after we've put down the controller.
So there you have it, folks. That's our deep dive into the world of Monkey Island. We've explored its history, its humor, its impact on the gaming industry, and its enduring legacy. And with that, we bid you farewell. Until next time, happy gaming.